Welcome in, Raiders. It's Vamp bringing you another episode in Raid Shadow Legends of the Accessible Champions series. Now, we've been mostly focused on Arena, but this episode is exciting because we've gotten to probably the final episode, the AoE Decreased Defense Champion role. And this role is fantastic in all areas of the game. It's by no means relegated to Arena. It's not even more useful in Arena than anywhere else. You'll see this role throughout the whole game. You'll see it in all kinds of boss battles in Doom Tower. You'll see it everywhere. Come on, He-Man. Okay, there we go. I was going to say, don't let the monkey, you know what I'm saying? But anyway, so Decreased Defense Champions, especially AoE Decreased Defense Champions, are really just top tier. They really are. And they're not Arena only. They're going to be useful everywhere. Click my promo link in the description box below to get legendary nuker Karato, as well as hard carry epic support Tagoar free when you register your account using these steps. Here's exactly what you need to do. Step 1, log out of Player and Play on your PC. This link will also work on your phone, but only if Raid has never been installed on that device at any point. Step 2, click the link in the description and register your account with a brand new email. Step 3, launch Raid and complete the tutorial. Step 4, go to your inbox in-game and Karato will be waiting for you, eager to knock down enemy champions in the early game. As soon as your account hits level 15, Epic Support Champion and Reviver Tagoar will be waiting in the exact same location. These champions will turbocharge your account start in Raid, so don't delay. Click the link and register your account now. Let's go ahead and move to one of the champions actually that we talked about in the Speed Booster video, because if we just look at his kit, he actually does both. So I had talked a little bit about just worrying about this skill. If you don't have better options for a Speed Booster champion, which there are several of in the game, you can refer to that video if you don't know who they are. This guy can be your Speed Booster with a 15% turn meter boost, and you could just build him in all speed, and then if you don't have a better aura, you could use his all battles 19% speed aura and let him be your fastest champion in Arena. Just give you that little 15% turn meter boost to bring your slower champions up to speed, and then, you know, hopefully your team is tuned as it should be, blah blah blah, and you get the job done. But Deacon is much stronger in this role we're talking about today, because him being built with enough accuracy that you're relying on him to be your decreased defense champion doesn't make this skill not work. It actually makes it work better. So again, basically point A is if you don't have any other options, which is possible because of the complete RNG of pulling champions in Raid Shadow Legends, then you can use him in the role that Arbiter does, where you just want him to go before everyone in the battle and give that 15% turn meter boost, and once he's done that, his job is done. If you put him in this role, then you can actually build him with a little bit lower speed. Let somebody like, I don't know, Runekeeper Dazdurk, Seeker was a really good option from the other video. Do the I'm going to go first and do the big turn meter boost. Actually, both of them are bigger than Deacon's, and then have Deacon be a little bit slower, but he'll get that big turn meter boost from your first champion so that he doesn't get cut, and he'll have accuracy in his build because you were able to build him slower. So he'll be able to do this skill still. And it'll still grant him an extra turn, obviously, except you get two benefits. One, you actually will probably decrease the turn meter of several or all enemies if he's built in accuracy, which gives you kind of like a push your team forward, push the enemy back type situation, which nets you not exactly 30% because of you have no idea where the turn meter is or the speed is on the other champions, but it gives you the 15% turn meter boost on your team and then a turn meter push back for approximately-ish 20 to 30% turn meter differential by the end of it. And since he's built with accuracy, it's very likely he does that. Then, again, since he's built with accuracy, he's going to land this. And since he grants an extra turn, which I already mentioned that, but right, like just trying to go through all of the steps, he's going to 15% up, 15% down, extra turn, boom. So he's going to get 2 turns and do both of these. That's still a net positive because he's doing what you need him to do with the decreased defense, but he's also giving you a secondary turn meter boost, which just brings your champions that are slower than him, which I guess would probably just be your nuker, but still, it brings them up again. And, you know, that turn meter boost brings them up to a faster speed, gives them a chance to go quicker than they would have just based on the speed in their build. So he's better at this role than Speed Booster for sure, and he's a great candidate for this. Okay, so now let's go to the Sylvan Watcher factions and talk about somebody. I don't know why I keep accidentally fully Xing out. Okay, Sylvan Watchers, this guy is a beast. I had heard glowing reviews about him from in-game players, but then I used him. I knew I was going to level him, so I had been leveling him in the background, but I finally used him and put him in some decent gear to push the Sylvan Watcher crit. And this dude, he just carried the entire team on his back. The damage output was insane. The extra turns were insane. Basically, this guy self-buffs his attack for more damage, his accuracy for That's right, more accuracy, which is great because he's a debuffer, and the main place you're going to run into high resistance that you maybe weren't able to plan for ahead of time is PvP, right? You can just go use the Hell Hades stages tool against bosses and give Daithi Daithi, whatever, give him like 25 to 50% more accuracy than the requirement, and he's going to be super safe. In PvP, you never know, right? So early mid-game resistance won't be a big thing. Late mid-game and late game, it becomes a much bigger thing. And so this guy's just giving himself time and a half accuracy. Whatever's in his kit, he's going to boost it by 50% right off the rip. Grants an extra turn into a really nice damage skill, debuffing decreased defense on everyone at 100% rate when he's booked, and if it lands on everyone, he grants himself another extra turn to then cycle into this skill, which could remove a random buff and has a 10 books to 20% of granting him an extra turn. He just can cycle like crazy. If he were to go here, he gets an automatic extra turn. Then if he lands the decreased defense on everyone, which the main reason he wouldn't is going to be affinity, or if you don't have him booked, then he gets another extra turn if he lands the decreased defense on everybody. Then he has a 20% chance to get another extra turn. If he were to happen to proc 2 A1 extra turns, he would literally cycle back to here and go all over again. So that would be super fun to see, especially in like the early and mid game in Arena, to get that lucky, oh my god, he got an extra turn, oh my god, he got 2 extra turns back to back on his A1, so now he's back at it, he's going to run through his whole kit again. But the guy does really decent damage. Obviously you could kind of expect that since they're giving him a self buff for increased attack, but accuracy aura will be nice in dungeons, as well as all the rest of his kit is amazing for progression in dungeons. But he's also just a really, really solid candidate, really like a hybrid damage dealer debuffer to go on your Arena team. After him, I'm going to talk about a pair that I feel like is very similar to each other, but has one kind of key difference, and that's Stag Knight, the OG, maybe the best epic and below decreased defense debuffer, maybe just the best versatility and progression debuffer epic and below in the game. But this guy's got a passive that gives his teammates an increased accuracy buff if they get resisted. So it's just a little nice cherry on top. It's not in any way the selling point of his kit, but this really kind of is, although his A1 is great too. He places if he's booked, a 95% chance, so you'll need to take the Sniper Mastery. I'll go over that in 1 second. But he places decreased defense and decreased attack, which is awesome because for the arena fight, we really just want the decreased defense because we're trusting our nuker at least 70+% of the time to hit everyone and get the job done. Everyone's dead, move on, nice win. But against boss fights, the decreased attack is an incredibly strong debuff. Very good. So this guy is like top tier for leveling up for progression, as well as very good for using in this role in Arena. And then this one's not as much for Arena, but a 2-hitter A1 that has a books to 50% chance of decreased speed is also just super strong against bosses that are not immune to this debuff, which there are a lot of bosses in the game that you can use this on. And then if you go do Centranos, which depending on where you are in the game, the Cursed City is what Centranos is. That's like kind of a later thing, but there's a bunch of bosses that get recycled in there in like different stages, whether it's from Doom Tower or from the regular mode, hard mode dungeons, and a lot of those bosses can also get decreased speed. So if this guy's able to go on the team, he's just going to be used everywhere, right? And he really doesn't, there's obviously better options for like Whale and Kraken players, but for rooms where you need to use epics or you're limited on your Bannerlord pulls or whatever, this guy doesn't really get outgrown in the game. Like he can be replaced by slightly better champions. There aren't really any better epics at this, but legendaries, void legendaries, mythicals, whatever, of course. But when you need someone from the Bannerlords or someone from the Spirit Affinity or an epic, Stag Knight is probably your guy. Secret rooms in Doom Tower, conditional rooms in Centranos, just an awesome champion. Then the other one in the pair I was talking about is actually a demon spawn buddy, if you will, and I mostly call him a buddy because he's the same affinity and he does an AoE decreased defense. The biggest thing here is he doesn't do the decreased attack as well. So this guy's perfectly fine for your arena team because you don't need the decreased attack, or at least you're not prioritizing it when you're hoping to go one turn, kill them and move on. But this guy basically has the same skill, except that he doesn't need Sniper. And I'll go back to Stag Knight because I actually forgot to mention Sniper real quick before moving on. But books to 100% chance of decreased defense for 2 turns. Perfect. He has some other utility like stuff going on that's very, very boss focused. So again, a great champion for the role in Arena, but also a great champion for progression. And I believe this guy hits pretty good himself as well. One big thing to note, and I forgot to mention it while we were on Stag Knight, we'll go back real quick. Stag Knight is 107 base speed, which is really fast. I think the Arbiter is 110, and the fastest speed in the game is 115, unless they've upped that since the last time I checked. So this guy's quite a bit slower, but a very viable option for that. And he's got, like I said, some other utility that's pretty cool for boss and progression, fights throughout your raid career as you're getting from little noob to, accomplished player. Gore loss could potentially be a big help. So then one more honorable, actually, wait. Let me go back to Stag Knight before I forget. I'm rolling. So here we go, 107 base speed. And then if we go to Masters, I'm just going to show you on like the top champion in case you're visual like me. Right here, the eye is Sniper. And if you remember, the main skill of Stag Knights only has 2 skills, but the main one had a 95% chance of placing decreased defense and decreased attack. This increases the chances of placing debuff from skills or artifacts by 5%. So boom, he's well worth the masteries, as useful as he is. Like I said, just go down the support tree, give him a bunch of accuracy or turn meter stuff, and then make sure you grab Sniper, and his A2 will then be 100% chance to land those vital debuffs. Then the third guy that's kind of similar to Stag Knight, but a different affinity, is Duke. Now here's why I put Duke at least one rung below Stag Knight. He has to be at 100% crit to land the decreased defense. I really wish this skill were the other way around. It says attacks all enemies, books to 100% chance of decreased attack for 2 turns, also has a 100% after booking chance for 60% decreased defense for 2 turns on each critical hit. So obviously if you're weak hitting with Stag Knight or Duke, they're not going to place a debuff. So this is basically saying on a strong hit or a regular hit, like a normal hit, non-crit hits will not place decreased defense. That's kind of a bummer. Once you get to the point in PvP where you're running into reaction, that will also make a non-critical hit, which makes it, he's just like, I wish it was the non-critical thing was decreased attack, right? Because I just feel like that he's so similar with this skill to Stag Knight, but he's there. If he's your best option, I wanted to call him out, but I consider it a much inferior version to Stag Knight because of that building that critical rate, and then the RNG and PvP of people having, the affinity thing separate, but having the reaction accessories where it doesn't change it. I don't think it changes it to a weak hit, but it forces it to be a non-crit if that reaction procs. He's just not going to debuff those people. And the whole point of this team is to go first, which is what reaction is supposed to counter. So I consider him a much inferior version for that reason. It's also going to be harder to build him fast with accuracy and crit rate. And then he's also got the lowest base speed out of all 3. So for me personally, I think that Gorlos and Stag Knight are both better. Then let's call out 2 Magic Affinity Ogrins that are great at this role. We got Ugo, who is basically a Hydra goddess. You really only phase her out when you start getting a really stacked roster, or you're getting into whale kraken territory where you can buy a lot of shards and kind of like almost curate the champions you want. No one can do that fully, but right, the more you spend, the more you can do that to a certain extent with the progressive chance events and the guaranteed champs and all that. But she's got, on this skill, which actually does 2 debuffs, a 100% chance as long as she's booked for decreased defense for 2 turns. Awesome. It's that simple. We're looking for AoE decreased defense champions, right? She also happens to have, since we're kind of mentioning people's other utility, she's going to be an insane support in all areas of the game at all levels where you need what she brings. 30% increased speed and block damage whenever she's the last person alive, which you can easily build her tanky. She's got great base HP, decent base defense. And then if you're not reviving on this skill, which is passively, she can revive on her A3 if she's procced that passive because everyone else is dead. She can't revive like a single ally. She has to be the last one alive. But if she does that, she'll revive them with 50% HP and 50% turn meter. If there's only a couple allies dead, some are still alive, or everybody's alive, she'll still do a decent heal here, and it's based on her HP, which is much, much better because you can stack hers and get a bigger heal versus, worrying about it doing by each champion's own HP. This is the best kind of heals by HP skill for sure, and also guaranteed to remove heal reduction and 1 random debuff. So it's like a partial cleanse, and the heal reduction thing, it may not even sound that sexy on paper, but that's the main thing that gets you messed up when you have your damage dealer and no resist and hardly any tankiness, and they get a heal reduction and things like Hydra or wherever puts heal reduction out, and you're like, well, Now I can't heal him. So the fact that it just automatically clears that is it's making way for it to be a really strong heal by making sure it doesn't get countered by heal reduction. And then the other random debuff is just nice for things like CC, even in like the, you know, the fear for, I don't know if the Ogren boss does fear. I can't ever remember what the Faction Wars bosses do, but any boss that does, like Dragon does stun, anything like that, she has a chance to clear that off whenever she does this skill. Great champion. Then we have, like, I would almost say like a pseudo Dythe. He came out before Dythe, but this guy also, he doesn't have the extra turn stuff going on, which is just so cool and so fun to watch. But this guy does do, on the same skill, buffs himself with increased attack for 2 turns, then attacks all enemies to place that decreased defense on all enemies. So that's great. And this guy actually does hit a bit. He has like really low base defense and pretty low base speed. So he's here again as a call out to be kind of a hybrid nuker / debuffer, but don't necessarily know if he's better than people like Dythe or Stagnite. They just kind of have a slightly better kit. But again, this is an accessible champions list, so I want to call out everyone who's worth calling out, because if we're on an accessible champions list, it's because we got limited options on our roster, right? So this guy is very viable for this. Just with that really low base defense, you got to keep in mind that if you use him for arena and you're trying to go first, so he just needs to take 1 turn and then hopefully the job is done, the defense doesn't matter as much. You want to get some extra utility out of him in dungeons. He's going to be easier to kill. Pretty low base HP, very low base defense. So just keep that in mind, right? And then I think I had two like special picks, if you will, like something kind of funky going on. This guy's an OG champion. He's been around for a really long time. Spider. Don't get him confused with Fang Cleric because they're a reskin of each other. This guy has a revive, I think. Yeah, revives 1 ally. So people will sometimes call out Fang Cleric on limited rosters for Faction Wars because he has that revive, and Dark Elves is actually really bad about revives. I think it's just him. And then, sorry, I'm scrolling past him, Caden. No one else that isn't a legendary does revive. They don't even have many revive options in legendary. Do they have any? Blind Seers, Avoid legendary. They don't have any revive options in this faction at all. But anyway, look at what this guy does. So he has an AoE decreased defense. Really good book value, just increasing the debuff chance and then a cooldown. Books to 100%, but then he has a second kind of line of text that says, has a 30 books to 70% chance of placing Baby Weaken. So it's just extra damage, right? The main downside for him as far as utility is that he definitely wants to be on speed teams like the Classic Arena team or like a speed farm team in a dungeon, because this baby, after fully booking, is on a 5-turn cooldown. That's just too long. But if you're in a situation where you can reliably get a big enough nuke that you just need him to go once and the whole team, everybody takes 1 turn or whatever, and then it's done, this weekend is just a 70% chance at 15% extra damage. So in a, like I said, each champion takes a turn and you're done in Classic Arena. He could definitely fit in that role. I just wanted to call out that it's a long cooldown, so this guy's not the best option, even though that weekend debuff is spicy. It's not 100%, and this long cooldown really hurts him for things like progression in dungeons and stuff like that. He does have a dungeons speed aura, so not usable in arena, but a pretty damn good one for an epic at 25% if you're working with him in dungeons, which unfortunately you probably aren't because of this cooldown. But anyway, wanted to call him out. And then the other one I wanted to call out is a dwarf. And I'm not going to lie to you, I'm trying to remember why I marked this guy as like a special case. Let me see real quick. Because this guy, I've had so many freaking copies of him. He's like, I don't know if you watch Ash's channel, but Ash was like, going off on Scrapper and Harrier, and like he always seems to be pulling them. I pull this guy like crazy. So let's see, 75% chance. Yeah, I don't really know why did I have him marked as special? He does 100% right there. Oh, because it's a 4-turn cooldown. Okay, so I think everyone else on the list has been a 3-turn cooldown, and this guy only books, he's really easy on books on this skill, but only books to a 4-turn cooldown. So I personally don't like that much, but as you can see, same affinity as Stagnite and Gorlos, just not a huge fan of the fact that while it's 100% chance to land, it's on a 4-turn cooldown. Obviously, that doesn't matter for arena, but trying to kind of give you guys options that are good in other areas of the game too, so you can get versatility out of your champ when you take the time and the resources to level them up. This guy, I don't love that it's a 4-turn cooldown. So he's a shout out though, in case you might need to use him or he's your best option. And then finally we get to a rare, and normally, y'all know, if you know, you know, and you do, but just want to call it out in case this is anybody's first raid video they've ever watched or something. Usually the rares are less effective at roles that epics do well. In this case, that isn't the case. War Maiden is, I think, the only rare in the game, wrong skill, that has an AoE books to 100% chance of big decreased defense for 2 turns. So just straight up what all the epics are doing. Usually it's less than 100%, in the case of, what's her name, Dagger, is a void rare that does 75% after being fully booked, and she's in the Bannerlords faction. I'll actually show you her because she's also rare, and if that's the best you got, that's the best you got. She would definitely help you. But this is awesome because aside from the slight downside of her affinity, which is not even that bad of an affinity for a debuffer, but you have affinity check, where she could weak hit a spirit champion like a Duchess or whatever. But 100% chance, 3-turn cooldown, minimal books, rare books at that. Just a really, really fantastic skill. So in this case, the rare was better as an option than some of the epic options we had previous in the video, but her base speed is okay, right? 97 is fairly low. The main thing with her is, like, as you can see, actually, what is this? 20 to 40%, not percent, 20 to 40 base defense difference than Siege Hulk. So that's what I was saying. We got a rare here, and I was about to call out that she's squishy because she, most rares are, because they have rare base stats, which just makes them lower on stat thresholds and therefore a little bit harder to build to survive. It is what it is, right? You get accessibility with her. And another cool thing about her is she can be farmed in campaign. So right here, Deadlands, make sure you do the boss stage because I believe that's the only place you can get rare drops. And if you want to farm all the copies of her, you can use them as skill tomes and book her that way if you need to save your rare books. So that's another call out, but her being farmable is awesome because anybody who's like just not having any luck with their first handful of pulls, doesn't have any decreased defense champions, can go get her. Guaranteed, you just have to farm and spam that, boss level in Deadlands until you get her. You eventually will, right? And it's going to be better potentially than waiting for a pull if you get really unlucky. Real quick, I'll just call almost like an honorable mention because it's not 100%. Where is she? Dagger right here. So attacks all enemies, unfortunately only books to 75, so you could get her to 80 with a sniper mastery, but I don't tend to master rares, especially rares like this where it's just like, come on, man, I just wish it was. I'd rather master War Maiden, even though she's not void affinity. But here's this champion. If you pulled her early, she could be a decent option until you get somebody better. But with that, guys, I'm concluding my list of my favorite accessible options, no legendaries, for AoE decreased defense. I hope that was helpful. If you have any thoughts, throw them in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, guys. There's a Discord server link to my server and a bunch of cool raid players in there in the description box below. Until next time, guys, happy raiding.